Mike Shaw, Director of International Ad Sales for Roku. Welcome to the European Connected TV Initiative. So, Mike, we've been working together now on the initiative for a few months, really deep diving into the European Connected TV opportunity. And of course, we've just seen Roku announce its Q4 results, which were driven by a phenomenal performance in the USA. Incredible growth in streaming numbers, in ad revenue, the very exciting Quibi deal, some really big moves by the business. Give us an update on Europe, though. Where is Roku in Europe today?
Hey, John, good to be speaking with you. So you're right. Thank you for flagging those. They were amazing results. I think testament to the potential streaming has and continues to have. Roku, we definitely see this as part of a process. We're terming it the streaming decade, and it's got a long way to go. Um, in Europe, so the UK has been the first major launch, and last year, early April, saw the start of the Roku channel's appearance in the UK. We can't talk about all of the numbers, about exactly how many people are viewing and how many people are using the platform. That's all stock market sensitive, but there are a few interesting anecdotes, notably from Ofcom, the Media Nations report that was released only 10 weeks after the channel's launch, already showed that the Roku channel, which isn't available across all platforms, already had a 1% and growing weekly reach amongst UK adults. So a really promising start. And as we look at our big partnerships with the major broadcasters in UK and across Europe, and the engagement we're seeing on their services on the platform as it grows, we're really hopeful of being able to replicate a lot of the US success. We definitely understand that not every market will look like the US, will grow like the US, and I think that's one of the reasons we're particularly engaged on projects like the European Connected TV Initiative. We really want to understand the advertising landscape, technology adoption, consumer media consumption habits in all of those markets. But our starting point in the UK, and also replicated in our international expansion efforts in places like Brazil, Mexico, notably Canada, and the number one share of streaming operating systems in new TV sold, is incredibly heartening for us.
Which is incredibly positive. Um, One of the big takeaways, I think, from our work on the initiative so far has been just how fragmented and varied the European landscape is. Germany, unsurprisingly, is very different to the UK, is very different to the Netherlands. How do you see the opportunity for connected TVs in these different geographies? Do you literally have to go country by country by country because they're all completely different? Or do you see some common themes?
I think there's some common overarching themes, and actually anybody who did listen into the Roku earnings the other week will kind of understand that growth pattern that Roku has of really driving the number of active accounts, then engaging those users, and only finally moving on to monetization. But that starting point of driving active accounts will happen very differently in different markets. And I think, to your question, it does mean that we need to look at a market by market approach. There are some generic trends that we know to be true. For example, that the prevalence of smart TVs is on the rise across the board. That people's desire to consume amazing content on the biggest screen possible is also a pretty universal trend. But actually, the way that streaming services are distributed to reach those screens can be very, very different, and depends a lot on, for example, the different plays from the existing cable and satellite companies in markets as to how fast other platforms can then grow.
That's really interesting. Um, One of the big themes we're exploring during the next few weeks as part of the initiative is obviously the issues around measurement, um, and particularly how we measure on TVs the consumption of streaming services, which is still one of the big challenges. How do you see the measurement landscape evolving? Are there big challenges in Europe that still need to be addressed, or do you think those solutions are well on the way to being solved?
I think there are definitely large challenges. I'd love to say that we're almost at the end of the road to solving them, but I think if you look back at the predecessor to connected TV, and that is the linear TV environment, one of the things that has done very well, especially in Europe, is to generate A-grade measurement standards agreed by both the buy and sell sides. that could then be used as a trading mechanism. That you can look at maybe the data involved in those, the size of them relative to the overall populations, and take pop at it. But fundamentally, it was something that was agreed by the industry and really worked very, very well. And it's absolutely core to the way that media value is traded. So I do think we've got a long way to go. I think the opportunities are huge. The amount of data that exists and that comes from streaming services, from set-top boxes, this device level data is incredibly powerful. But we can't forget the other half of the equation, which is really about understanding the individuals or groups who are in front of those screens. And this is where the more traditional TV approach of having panels and really understanding people comes in. And I think for all its trials and tribulations, Project Dovetail from Barb had an incredible name. This idea of dovetailing people data as well as device data, I think is the way forward for us, and it will definitively help media planners and traders be able to get to a place where they can make the optimal calls on behalf of their clients and their marketing budgets as to where that money goes. We know right now that there is a significant disparity between the amount of consumer attention spent with streaming and the advertising investments that follow that. There's a lag. There's a lag for a number of reasons. There are legacy trading agreements in place that agencies are kind of bound by, but also just purely the measurement and then being able to really drive those measurement outcomes into the workflow of trading is a big part of where we're coming up short. So we as a platform, as a media organization, have a vested interest in making sure this that this measurement debate is forwarded and we get to a place where, again, we have this holistic view that buy and sell side all agree is an accurate representation that they can then work from. And there are initiatives out there. Origin is one. It's interesting to see how the NBCU stable with Sky are working on Sea Flight, even while Sky is an avid supporter of Barb. So yeah, I think that there's lots of progress being made, but the sooner we can get to end game there, the better.
A final quick question then, although I'm not sure it's a quick one. Workflows. So the other exciting thing about connected TV, of course, is that it brings a programmatic workflow more commonly associated with perhaps digital video or online video to the TV screen. But obviously that's a very different workflow to the traditional TV advertising workflow. And certainly a lot of agencies are saying to us that they want to see ideally greater convergence over the coming decade as they head towards a kind of total AV market with CTVs very much sitting there at the epicenter. Do you agree with that view that we need to see some convergence in the workflows to really extract the full value of this new ecosystem?
Yes, I definitely do. And I think actually to one of your earlier questions, if you looked at the way that CTV is being treated by buyers, there'd probably be some on the digital side of things, the people who are looking at CTV as an expensive but potentially digital native format. They would say, well, there's not really any workflow issues because fundamentally it's exactly like the programmatic pipes that we deliver digital video and banners through. And that makes sense. But actually the bigger share of the display and video market is in television. And those guys don't see a CTV equivalent, if you think about the UK, for example, of carrier. They don't see UK equivalents of those centralized systems that are absolute standards in the way that creative is delivered, stored, accessed, that compliance for, in the UK again, the Ofcom licensed channels, how all of that is gone and managed. Right now, these are manual tasks undertaken by ad operations teams, and they're not as streamlined as they have been in TV. So I think we have got a long way to go to reconcile both sides of the house, the traditional TV buyers, the digital buyers, if you like, into this single AV ecosystem. There's definitely work to do.
Mike, that's been fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing some of your insights with us about where the market is and where Roku's heading. We look forward to continuing our discussions as the European Connected TV Initiative continues its merry way forwards during the course of the next few months.
Pleasure, John. Thanks for taking the time.